Hi there, it's Phil Wilburn, and we're going to be talking about network traps. The first thing after taking the Leader Network Diagnostic and mapping out how open, diverse, and deep a network is to kind of balance it up against what are the most common network traps that are out there to give you an idea whether or not you're slipping into one of these traps and maybe what can I do to overcome one of these traps. And really they're broken up into three general areas. One is resources, so resource traps, structural traps, and developmental traps. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the most common ones that I see in the classroom and just give you a couple questions to reflect on your network or if you're in the classroom, the networks of the people around you. Let's talk about resource traps. This work comes from Ibarra and Hunter. A number of years ago, they did this research study where they found essentially that in every manager leader's network, there are basically three types of resources that are available in your relationships. One is operational, which are people who help you get coordination, cooperation. They're actually that people who help you actually get work done and maintain the current capacity. There are personal resources, mentoring, coaching, venting, kind of a safe environment or some personal referrals for other work. The other one is strategic. So strategic relationships give you insight to future priorities, stakeholder support, or access to opinion leaders. By mapping your resources along this continuum, you can see whether or not you're falling into certain traps. One of the things you can do with a Leader Network Diagnostic is once you map your people out there, identify whether or not they're operational, personal, or strategic resource on the definitions that I gave you. Many times people ask, hey Phil, what if that person's both operational and personal, or operational and strategic? And I say, great. In network science, that's actually called multiplexing, which means you get multiple resources from one relationship, and that's actually really good for you, and it makes your network very efficient. Although it doesn't have to be like that, it makes it very efficient. So take a moment, do that with your own network, and you can see whether or not you're falling into one of these traps. The first trap related to resources is what I've called the ever-present manager. As you can see, it's characterized by a network in which all of the relationships are operational. They're focused on operational relationships, so you might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? Well, the potential consequences is that they're so busy focused on getting it done right now at this moment that you are lacking the influence or lacking the foresight to think about what needs to happen in a year, in 18 months, or what needs to happen in 2 weeks from now to take care of my team. And so there are some potential negative side effects. And there's some causes. So here are a few causes that people have told me in the classroom, oh, my network looks like that, here's what it is. Often they're overwhelmed. They don't see the benefit of doing anything strategic. And a big one is they're not aware the importance of strategic relationship has on them. So take a moment, think, is this your type of network? The other, I would say, less common trap for resources is what I call the politician, or some people call the schmoozer, right? And you know these type of people. It's characterized by focusing too much on strategic relationships and being seen as being focused on just moving up in the organization. There are some consequences. We all talk about these people badly behind their backs, never in front of them, because sometimes they're good to have in our networks, but they often get a bad reputation and they really lack operational execution, and that can hurt them in the long run. Often these people plateau and derail. That's a common term that's used. Why? When I've talked to these people in confidence, of course, about why this is going on, here's what they tend to tell me. They're occupied with their career. They don't really see or feel the benefit to develop strong or deep enough relationships. And really, they find it easier to build relationships than actually getting their job done. And sometimes they're just really good at that. So think about your network and where you might fall. And then the last one, the one that I don't see, again, as common, but it's still out there and you have to be aware of it, is the water cooler loiterer. The water cooler loiterer. It's even hard for me to say it, all right? Easier for you to read it. Another one is the gossiper, and this is basically characterized by maintaining too many broad personal relationships. The consequences is often you get a reputation or perceived as unproductive and maybe more interested in hearing the latest office gossip than actually sitting at your desk and getting the work done. And when I've talked to people who have this pattern, they say, hey, I just have a strong need to know what's going on. They don't tell me they're addicted to office place drama, but I assume that may be a cause right there. They could be a social person in a very independent job, and so they are reaching out very often to do this. Again, these are 3 of the most common traps related to resources. And after this video, we're going to be talking about the other traps, structural and developmental.